Hey everybody, getting back to work on this one. Worked on it a little earlier today. Don't have too much I want to talk about or focus on rather than just the excellence of this piece. I'm very satisfied with the look of my brush right now, and I'm just going to keep working with it until we get a nice finished piece. So earlier I was talking about I had just listened to a few Steve Jobs keynotes and interviews and lectures. He was talking about building business and the things that it takes to build business. And I was talking about how I wanted to start from that deep change within myself and really work on, my passions, but also just exhibit excellence in the current work that I do. So I have four jobs. My main one is in retail with Apple. That's one of the reasons I like looking at Steve Jobs interviews and lectures, is because he started the company that I work at. Things have changed a lot since Steve Jobs lived. The CEO is different, the behavior is different, the keynotes are really, really different because, the keynote speeches when, on product launches and stuff, clearly no longer carry the same attitude and spirit that Steve Jobs had, at least in his early keynotes, where he was really talking about the specs and the production in specifics, whereas Apple nowadays is very secretive and very particular in the way they present ideas and new products. And it feels a little bit less organic, I would say. And I'm just, speaking my opinion on their mode of presentation. Obviously, I love the products. I think they're great. And yeah. But it's the mode of presentation of the way, it's just kind of changed over time. But anyways, why am I talking about this here? It's because there's Steve Jobs, no matter how much he scaled to, there was a grassroots feel to him because he knew the whole story of Apple. And he was able to tell that story, not just the roots of the company, their early visions, but also a vision for the future. He always had a vision for the future. He would always talk about 5 to 10 years from now, computers might do this and that. And he was on the dot a lot of the time. I just listened to a lecture. He was very young. It must have been in the like mid 80s. And he was talking about how a computer program is very strange because television programming, allows you to experience something. And we got very good at sort of taking an experience, that happened in real life and then retelling that experience, over the airwaves, like something like the moon landing. And a computer program rather breaks down the principles of an experience and makes that accessible. So something like a computer game has maybe a story built into it, but it's the player's self-expression within that rule set of the game that allows the user to have that experience. And then he said something like, he hopes that one day, because programs are able to capture the spirit of a thing rather than just kind of regurgitating the raw sensory experience of a thing, that someone might one day be able to, interact and live with one of these computers their whole lives, and then, type all their thoughts and ideas into it and really imbue their own spirit, the core principles of who they are and their philosophy into that computer. And then one day we might be able to ask that person a question after they've passed away. He mentioned Aristotle, that if Aristotle had typed his ideas onto a computer, and if the computer truly, quote unquote, understood him and his ideas, then we'd be able to ask that computer, hey, what would Aristotle have said to this? And what's amazing is that that kind of technology exists today. with tools like ChatGPT and the many ways that natural language models have incorporated, I guess, the downloading of like personality type and the way they're able to sort of exhibit that. And that includes, I'm sure, a set of ideas. That's okay, I'll just leave that blank. So, I mean, Steve Jobs was saying this in the 80s, and he said, well, it might be over a decade that before we see something like that. Well, it took 30 years, Steve. And, we're starting to get to something like that. I know that AI is kind of in its infancy. Machine learning is in its infancy. Or maybe in its adolescence, maybe. I don't know how to describe it. But it's not old. It's not old technology. It's thriving technology. And Steve kind of had an inclination toward that already. Maybe not thinking, okay, it's going to be an AI. But he did understand the general idea that a computer program can capture the spirit of a thing, the principles of a thing. My eyes are getting a little irritated because my AC is blowing and it's cold, so I'm going to change my direction of my AC real quick. I'm not sure how many times my Twitch chat has reconnected. What happened here? Oh, there. Okay. Maybe I'll just change the direction of the vent so it's not blowing straight at my eyes. There we go. Okay. Oh yeah, so in the previous video I was mentioning like what is it about personal business that I can like really grow, and I want to help people live rightly. And I need to do that first by mastering my own life, and then maybe teaching principles, or at least sharing the experience and teaching the principles I learn along the way. Because I don't have to wait. One thing I've learned is that if I want to be a teacher, I don't have to wait until I'm a master of the thing in order to teach it. Maybe I'll have more authority in teaching it if I wait till I'm recognized as a master. But I can at least share the experience I gain along the way, because knowledge is something that evolves anyway. It's something that is gained over time collectively. As Dr. Michael Levin said, all intelligence is collective intelligence. Even the intelligence in our bodies, which is much more than our brain, but even our very cells are intelligent in the sense that they are able to solve problems toward some kind of goal. That's what he defined to be intelligence. I know there's many definitions of it. We can talk about intelligibility, that the world has patterns that can be recognized, and we use our intelligence to see those patterns. But for what? Like, looking at it from a biological perspective, the only reason we have intelligence to begin with is to really optimize the propagation of our DNA. What is DNA but a program? Program in the, I suppose, the ether of, or the substrate of the natural world, governed by, the laws of quantum physics. Like, we can get really deep into the description of it, but, our brains, our bodies, our souls are geared towards something. Now, there's a lot of Sartrean, John Paul Sartre, it's all about freedom. It's all about self-discovery and doing what I want to do using my own autonomy. Nowadays that's the overarching theme, the main sort of mantra of like most people, like young people. And I don't know if it was started by Sartre. I mean, I'm sure it's been a thing for forever, give me liberty or give me death. The French Revolution, the American Revolution. Being free is a good thing, but being free is not the ultimate end. Because freedom allows us to access whatever decisions we want to make, but it's not every single kind of decision that, having access to every single kind of decision that's going to lead us to a good life. And I don't think that good is a subjective thing. And we can easily see that by looking at things like war and starvation. Those are clearly not good. And what can be clearly good is mitigating, helping people through situations like that. Reducing general people's suffering, giving people joy, giving people goods, feeding people, things like that. Those are clearly, to me, clearly good. Clearly, I would say objectively good, because, what does objectively mean? I mean, there's a whole lot of, we can say about consciousness and subjectivity and objectivity. I'm not enough of a philosopher to talk about those things in depth, but I feel like I should be. Maybe I ought to be. I don't know. So I can speak about this a little bit better. I'm almost done with the line art, by the way. It's kind of just going, taking care of itself, which is good. But yeah, as I was saying, freedom is not the ultimate goal. And that's why I'm detaching myself from One Piece. I think I'm repeating myself in a lot of these videos. Let me know if I'm repeating myself too much. One Piece, for one reason or another, I had to stop reading. It's a great story, wonderful story. But the theme of it is freedom. This is easily recognizable anytime Luffy talks. That he wants to be free. In order to gain that freedom, he needs to be a powerful pirate. He needs to have a dream. But it's Sartrean, isn't it? Like, I think, therefore I am. Was that Sart or someone else? I don't remember. But that existence is an open-ended thing, when in fact, as a human, it isn't really, because our design is geared toward a certain thing. Design, and I'm not even talking about intelligent design. I'm just talking about, like, look at the body, look at it, the immune system, look at what it does. It is made, like, what is the right word for this? The way it is structured is to propagate itself. Like a plant. I mean, DNA, that's what DNA does. Propagates itself. And it does it very well. Well, I suppose that depends on the person. But in general, collectively, we as a race do it very well. The human race. But it's geared towards something. It's not this open-ended, autonomous, perfectly autonomous, I do whatever I want kind of thing. And that's hard for a lot of people, especially young people like myself, to accept. Because that used to be what I wanted. I just wanted to be free to do as I wanted to do. I mean, I wanted to play video games all day. Like, what even is that, It's dopaminergic. I wanted to make more money so that I can relax. And that's not a bad desire, but what end does that serve for me as a man ultimately? Am I going to be fulfilled doing that? I don't think so. I have sons. It's like, if I lived that way as a single man and just lived that way for the rest of my life, it would have been dreary. It would have been empty. It might have been fun, but fun momentarily, and returning to a life of what I would say feels like emptiness. Ultimately, it's in connection that we might find fulfillment. And that's part of our design. We're meant to be social creatures. We experience pain if we're lonely, if we're isolated, because I guess evolutionary, even biologically speaking, psychologically speaking, it is good for us to stay connected with family and community. It's good for us. So what happens is we discover that we can't just decide what is good for us. Living for autonomy doesn't really lead anywhere. And again, it's not a bad thing to have freedom, to have power, to have... It's like, yeah, of course, we're all for that. I'm all for that. But the question will always lie, what are you going to do with it? What now? Now that you have it, was that your final end? No. Because there's still something to do with that freedom. You're still alive. There's something to do with it. Are you going to gain more freedom? I suppose you can do that. Can you fight for more freedom for other people? I suppose you can do that. And that's good. But freedom, it's not the ultimate end. It's more of a means to an end. Gaining freedom can be an end, and that's a good end. Gaining freedom for yourself and others. You know, the book of Exodus, freeing the slaves. That's great. But what happened when the Hebrews were freed from Egypt? They complained and they died in the desert because they didn't have their own sense of direction. They didn't follow, I don't know, Moses or God or whoever it was that was leading them. You know, they were free, but not quite. Free from slavery, yes. Okay, so I didn't sketch the braids, so we're just going to find out how to do braids right now. I've done it before, but I think it's like, I want to make sure I kind of do it well. So let's kind of backtrack here. Like this. And then it'll tuck in here. And then there's going to be quite a few strands coming down on this side. No, actually it just kind of goes straight into the braid. So it kind of just goes straight into here. And then, you know what? Let's reel this in a little bit. You know, it's funny because I'm saying this all the while drawing anime girls, and it's like, I know this is a project not for my own enjoyment. That's what I was really trying to talk about in my last video. I'm not doing this for myself. I'm doing this primarily for the client, so that I can earn money, so that I can serve my family. This is my job right now. Do I have a passion for this? Not particularly for this type of project, no. For art, maybe. But now I can even see art as a means to an end. I'm just gonna do, I guess, alternating lines like this. Let's let the braid kind of come this way. I think the braids need to be tighter and smaller. Yeah. Let's go back up a little bit. So let's let them tighten, downsize a little bit as we come down here, and then we can start kind of angling the braid to have a flow towards the right. The silhouette looks fine. Not sure if I'm going to quite remember how the braids actually fold together, but it's not a huge deal, I think, right now, having that understanding. Past chest length and then dips into a little pony. So yeah, we'll just kind of stop it right here. Have it downsize even more as it comes down. Yeah, tighten even more. Let me get smaller. It's kind of starting to look like an intestine. I want it to look like a braid. And then it'll tie together right here. Okay, like that. And then little pony. Okay, so freedom, autonomy, not the ultimate means to an end. But then it's like, okay, so, I mean, these are pretty basic ideas, I suppose. And the question becomes, okay, what then do we do with that freedom? What is the right thing to do? And this is where we get into morality. It's so crazy because, like, even just to get past Sartre, like, just to understand, okay, that freedom is not the ultimate end. I don't even know if that's what he believed, but that's the theme of One Piece. It seems to be. Obviously, Luffy is a good person. You know, he did free his own slaves in some way. Not his own slaves, but freed the slaves in his own way, in his own adventures. This is too much. But that seems to be the theme. It's like freedom, 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 freedom. Now, Bishop Barron, he talks about a freedom of excellence, not a freedom of choice or a freedom of autonomy, or freedom to do whatever I want, but there's a freedom of excellence where you start to live by the rules. He likes to talk about the golf swing, you know, a high level of... let's look at the pole vault. This year in the Olympics, there was a Swedish pole vaulter. What was his name? Armand Duplantis. Wonderful competition of pole vaulting. He got past everybody and then beat the Olympic record, created a new Olympic record, and then got the gold. Already had secured the gold, but then they put the bar higher, raised the bar, and he went for the world record, which was beating his own world record, right? And then he got it, and pretty much it was done after that. He didn't attempt any more after that to get an even higher world record. I mean, he barely got the world record, but it was awesome. But if we look at the movements of a pole vault, there are a lot of rules, I'm sure, that you have to follow. Not sure if I'm going to do these braids right. Something like this. Just going to try to use my contour. But there was something just beautiful about his technique. The way he barely got over the bar, and the way he even moved like his arm so that the bar would barely like squeeze under his armpit. The way he moved his legs, the way he approached, the way he runs. You know, the training that you have to do in order to get that high pole vault. It's all integrated into this beautiful concoction of actions that lead to a world record in the pole vault. It's even more restrictive in the golf swing in a sense, because with the golf swing, you know, there's a whole lot of different types of golf swings that you have to do, more than just the initial drive, and you gotta, you know, get it out of the sand and, you know, putt through the green. There's a whole bunch of different things, but with pole vault, it's one action, and you're perfecting it. So you gotta follow the rules. If you break any of those rules, you're not gonna get a good pole vault. So, but once you're able to follow those rules, then, okay, you have the goal in mind, you can push yourself, have that freedom of excellence. What are things I can do? What optimizations can I make? What are some other ideas I have that can sort of push the boundaries of this one single action? Freedom of excellence. To me, that feels like real freedom, because then we start moving into the whole flow state thing that one Russian scientist or Ukrainian, I'm not sure, Mihai, I don't know how to say his name, but the flow state researcher talked about, you know, flow state is really something that makes people happy. Diving into that work and getting good at it and having a high skill level and learning as you go, it's an awesome feeling. Something that's, you know, worthy of pursuit. And again, not that autonomy is not a part of any of this, because it is, because you can be autonomous enough to search for the thing that you ought to do. But then once you find that thing, it's like, okay, the way to get free is no longer expanding access to one's, you know, decisions, that access to more types of decisions or whatever. It's like once you found that one thing, okay, now it's like go be excellent in it. And it can be broad. Like for me, be a good husband, a good dad. It's broad, and there's a lot of skills involved in that. But there are rules. There are rules that I need to follow. rules that I didn't follow before, but that I ought to, and that I still ought to, no matter what. No matter what the consequences have been of my not following them before, I ought to follow them. Okay. We're almost done with the line art, actually, which just feels good because I know that this is more like jeans, so we're just going to try to get that texture in. This angle should be more steep, I guess, like this. And then the character model has shorts only on one side, so we'll get that fold of fabric right over here. And I'm, I guess, pretty impressed with myself that I was able to draw this line art for this character and pretty much hit it in like 2 sittings, all the while talking about other things. I guess it shows how much drawing, or at least the line art process, has kind of been ingrained into my head. Like once the sketch is done, the sketching it requires a lot of thought. But I am satisfied with well, not satisfied, but yeah, well, satisfied. I'm content with how this one turned out in the sense that I wanted to do multiple passes, and as long as I slowly refine, the passes kind of guide and make things easier. So this process was a success in my eyes. Again, the line art's not perfect, but it came out, I guess, better than I expected. Okay. Let's see. Let's get some lines here to bring in the braids. Let's get some more in here. It's not perfect, but I guess the silhouette is what's important right now. Okay, yeah, that's good. This is good. Let's look at the tail. We have a feathery tail. Oh, I didn't get the wings in. We need to get the wings in. Feathery tail, scaly on top. And where are the computers on that second layer? We'll bring it back. I guess her elbow would be sticking out more than the tail. The tail would kind of be hiding behind. Maybe some folding right under here. And then the tail over here. Over here, and then the scales into feathers right over here. Get some texture on the tail feathers. Okay, so excellence is what we're pursuing. I think I did a pretty decent job on the line art here. Just a couple more things to add in. We got to add in those computers. We got to add in the versus sign, maybe some, heat or lightning effects around, but we're doing pretty good. Here's what I'll do before I quickly move on. We have the figures. What I'll do in another layer, I'll call this for other, because it's still past 4, but I'll make this line now. Draw that versus sign. I'm gonna upsize my brush a little bit. Make this cool versus sign. Then we can really move on to finishing. So I might take a bit of a break after finishing this versus sign. I feel like it's good to unwind, take a fresh look, maybe mirror a few times. Might even do that right now. Mirror is always good to get a fresh look, instant fresh look. See any glaring errors? Okay. Get that line weight in the shadow of the S. A little more line weight down here. So if you have any thoughts with what I'm saying, what really surprises me, and shout out to this, I think his name is Panim or something, sent me a DM on Instagram thanking me for creating the content and thanking me for being a Christian, and being able to talk about my belief in God and in Christ on the airwaves, if that's a even good word to use right now, on the internet. Yeah, I'm not afraid. I mean, I haven't put myself in any situation where I should be afraid. I don't think I'm putting myself at risk per se. I don't know. Okay, that's pretty good. I'm going to make this a little more pointy. Let's get this one a little bit more pointy. Yeah. There, that's pretty good. So we got the line art's pretty much done on the characters. Might, mess around a little bit with the emboldening the contours a little bit more, getting some line weight on the outside edges. But we'll not worry about that too much. We're going to get a fresh look, flip horizontal. The composition is not exactly balanced, but maybe once I get the computers in there, it might balance itself out a little bit more. Okay. I think this is good. We'll stop here, and we'll reconvene in a little bit. Talk to you guys later. God bless. Bye-bye.